The interesting thing about Creepshow to me certainly was the fact that for the first time we were playing with a budget that commanded some $4 to $5 million, number one, which opened up opportunities for equipment both in the production of Creepshow and in post-production. The other factor was certainly that the cast of characters, the cast themselves, was extraordinary. I had never worked with the magnitude of talented people. It was a whole new form of filmmaking for me, certainly, and I'm sure for George also. I was pleased, certainly, in the theaters in the way the film was presented and the look of the film. It was the medium for which we had produced. Later editions on video, be they VHS or even DVD, were much to my chagrin. I did not like the timing and just the overall sound quality. It lost a lot. What has transpired through the age of technology, currently we are now able to take my Creepshow and from the original negatives, which is pretty extraordinary, and thank goodness they had survived the test of time, some 30 years. Thank you, Warner Brothers. From the vault came the negative into a transfer in today's 4K excellence, and we now have a preserved version of Creepshow. To my liking, after some 10 hours of work through the auspices of PhotoChem in Burbank, California, we have produced an extraordinary version of Creepshow, never seen before, and probably ever since the dawn of the theatrical print, has there anything been quite as quality-oriented.
Meteor ship!
The overall situation with the film, as I looked at it on the first pass, and that was coming from the camera negatives themselves, was not tragic. It had the typical scene-to-scene corrections that were inherent from the photography itself. Nothing terribly extraordinary. The one beautiful thing that I was able to do in terms of this process and with the colorist at PhotoChem was to extend some of the effects moments that I had created in camera, but had been lost perhaps in the editorial process. And what I mean is some of the color affectations that I applied during the course of the film to exhibit high moments of anger or hate, saturations of colors, I could extend over 2 or 3 shots, which I had never been able to do prior through timing. So this was the first time I could actually, to my satisfaction, and to George's, God bless him, create a new version, but the accurate version of Creepshow. So an example of what I could do now in the 4K version, and with the help of the colorist, is I could take some of those scenes where Nathan Grantham is coming out of his grave, and they intercut with reaction shots from Vivica Linfors. I could now extend those color effects into her shots, where formerly they were slight at best, but didn't match any of his shots. So I could create a kind of continuity between his shots and her shots as they intercut. Jordy was the same situation, Jordy Varro. I could, in particular in some of the scenes interior-wise at the doctor's office, his fantasies about being cured, I could take some of the color effects there, even some of the softness of detail that I imposed on that scene, I could extend over a series of shots, again, to create continuity.
You can shoot us dead, Richard, because we're already dead.
The challenges in Tide You Over came in the latter scenes where our lovers return as zombies and form the attack on Leslie Nielsen. And there again, some of the shots were incongruous in terms of their color versus the color building against Leslie Nielsen. And again, I could extend those moments into their shots. So again, it was a glorious way to continue the extension of the emotion of the lighting itself.
So-called academics make the shark in Jaws look like fucking Flipper.
Wilma!
The crate had moments both on the exterior porch when Hal Holbrook is going through his moment of anger with his wife Billy. And again, there's an intense red effect that comes up on him, but not so much on her shot. I could again bridge the cut. In the episode Creeping Up on You, the challenge there was not so much coloration and lighting effect, but there was some of the maintaining of the white effect of the room itself. And because of the mixed colored, balanced instruments used in that particular room and some practical lamps, some of the whites were lost on the film print in particular, but in the 4K version I could better even out the tones and create a kind of pristine look for Upson Pratt's apartment.
I've got to let you go, George. You did well. Go out and fuck somebody. But wear a damn rubber. Everybody's got the damn herpes these days.
As I look back on the Project Creepshow, critiquing myself, one should never be perfectly satisfied with what he has done. I see many moments where I wish we could have had a little more time to shoot, maybe reshoot. The biggest problem I found as I learned later in my filmmaking career, the importance of storyboards. I wish in some fashion that I had the ability to present to George boards on many of the shots. I think it would have helped him and also helped those continuity moments that I talked about in terms of coloration and effect. One thing I miss, indeed, are those storyboards. I think beyond a doubt that involving the director of photography, someone, producer, someone involved in that film, coming back and making some decisions about how that film will be translated into a 4K format, preserved in essence, is most important. Only because who can ever capture the feel and the drama and the understanding of how a film was made except those who are principally involved? And having worked with a variety of technicians, the colorists in particular, they all crave for some input. They can make decisions. They can look at it and make some personal adjustments, but they most enjoy some sort of input from somebody involved initially.
Teach you to throw away my comic books.
I think the Creepshow motion picture has held up over the years only because it's such a collection of universal stories that play upon the passions of people, greed, hate, simple things like concern about insects, very common fears that we can all relate to. And I think it goes back, way back into the comic books themselves. They all played upon fears that we all universally feel, and we can somehow work out in our own ways through these dramas. This has been a glorious process because I could sign off on a 4K version that has preservation possibilities beyond my imagination, and lives as a kind of legacy as to what I wanted it to say, what George wanted it to say. And there's no qualms about releasing it and saying, this is the version of Creepshow that we wanted to give the audience.
Thank you.